Hello and welcome back to Do Brand You. It's here on this channel that the focus is on you for you to unleash your potential in every season of life. And a couple times a month, I always have a great conversation with someone, and I share that with all of you. And today we've got Dr. Denise Perdue. Welcome, Denise, to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. So happy to be here. Beyond thrilled. Thank you for asking.
So before we get into having a conversation with Denise, I want to just share a little bit about her with you. So Dr. Perdue is a seasoned educator with over 30 years of experience as a homeschool parent. Interesting enough, the podcast that I have that comes before this one is actually a guy that says from Canada, and he was homeschooled. So we had a great conversation that links probably a little bit to this one. So she successfully homeschooled her two children. And when they started the college at the age of 15 and 16, respectively, she went on her own journey, which we're going to dive into very soon. Now, I met Denise online, and we found out we were both from Denver, Colorado, and now we live far apart. She's in Kentucky. I'm here in New Zealand. She's in summer. I'm in 0 degrees, started this morning in winter. And she is the founder of Alinea Home, a parent-to-teacher academy for homeschooling. And that was established in 2021. Some exciting things are happening here coming up, and she's going to be sharing that with us soon. So in addition to her professional pursuits, Dr. Perdue is an avid reader, a devoted fan of Ben & Jerry's Chunky Monkey ice cream, one of my favorites, celestial tea enthusiast, and yes, definitely in winter, I agree, a puzzle enthusiast as well. And she cherishes the concept of home as a true respite and sanctuary, which really connects with so many of the people listening here today, because many of us are, working from our own home, and that becomes our sanctuary. So welcome again, Denise.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I would love to just kind of dive into the middle of your story, where those shifts and changes in life that come. And so can you kind of dive into that? Your kids are off to university, and now you're going to start on your own journey.
Yeah. Be happy to. It's really interesting how that portion came about. So we have life happens to us. And for me, it was the end of my marriage. And it's unusual to talk about that, especially as a homeschool mom, because that's not the norm. And that just didn't happen in my direction. And so one of the things that my daughter suggested was, she said, "Hey, Mom, how about you just go back to school and just keep going to school? And I think that you would enjoy it." So I took her up on that, attending the same university that they were going. However, I chose to go to the one that was on the campus where I was living, and they went to the main campus. So I was at the satellite campus. And I remember distinctly driving onto the campus, walking up about 15,000 steps. That's how many I thought there were. It was unbelievable. I was nervous. I was shaking, literally sweating. How am I going to do this? I'm older. I'm well into my 40s. The atmosphere on that campus, they're super young. The children, they're just a bit older than my own children. So I'm going to be in the classes with them. They're still wanting to date. They don't know much about life. And I'm going to be in the classroom with them. And I'm just thinking, this is entirely too challenging for me. I'm not going to do that. But one thing that happened, and I'll never forget it, and I'm going to thank my counselor for this, for the rest of my life. When I walked into her office, we talked about some things that I wanted to do, but I didn't really know what the degree plan was going to be. And she gave me the master's degree catalog. Now, we look at those online now, but I actually had a physical copy that and she says, "Well, hey, just look through it and see what you like." And I did, and I found human development and leadership. Fascinated, of course, with how we live, what we do, the way the way that we think about things, about life, how we use that to transition to next seasons. And then leadership, I felt that I would want to go into that in higher education when I started working in higher ed. So I really like that. And she says, so this is the thing, is that that's the master's degree catalog. Your undergrad degree, to me, is already complete because you walked in the door. So I thought that was magnificent in her telling me that. So I went ahead and went forward. Those classes were amazing. So the students would ask me a lot of questions, and I was perplexed by that. And so that's the leadership part, that they were not necessarily looking at me as a mom, but as a leader and having some more information, just life that I've been ahead of them with. The classes were so grand. I did continue on with my master's. I was hungry for more knowledge, more skills. I was really delighted about the environment that I was in. The instructors were just tremendous, and it was a lot of hard work.
Exciting, because it's like, as a lifelong learner, I love how you talk about that hunger, because we do. As humans, we naturally want to learn. And can you dive into about how that vision of what you have now with Alinea Home and what that became, how did that kind of crystallize?
So it didn't come about until later. So I was thrilled about working. I had not worked at all my whole adult life. And so I'm back in school and now finishing up, and now I need to start working a little bit. So to introduce myself into the working environment, that was a time as well where I decided what age group I wanted to work with. So I knew education then was going to be at, and then what level. So was I going to be in elementary, middle? And I just chose I wanted to be in higher education with adult learners.
And I'm just going to jump in here for a second, because I'd love to just highlight something that you said. As a full-time mother, I also had a time where my husband was an international pilot, and I had to stay home with the kids. This was what I needed to do. So I did. As an adult, how do you go back in, or how do you enter that world of work? But what I love is that is so key is that every single person has skills and talents, and we don't find those in paid work all the time. You found those in how you served your kids. I just love that.
Yes.
Yeah. So carry the story on, like how then this began to develop.
So I worked in a couple of different states, which was really interesting. And in each state that I worked in, the problems for students, faculty, staff, administration were the same. So those gaps in their learning turned out to be gaps in their struggle, whether it be in the workplace or whether it be with helping students. And to me, those needed to happen at home, not in the workplace. So for example, this is funny. I can't really tell you who told me this because they would become angry, but I'm going to say it anyway. My sister. When I started working, she didn't mention this to me at all, but when I became an administrator, she did. And I think, Lorraine, you're going to find a big kick out of it. One of the things she said was, the people that you're going to be working with are in a few categories because they're all in kindergarten. Now, they're not all in kindergarten. She's really talking the ones that complain a lot. And she says, so when they start complaining, someone in kindergarten needs to be first in line. They are tattletales. They want to sit at the teacher's pet. They want to have the attention of. So she gave me the whole line of what kindergartners do. And what that means is they didn't learn at home how to communicate with people, how to respond to people. When there's a challenge, you go and confront the person. You don't go around and tell everyone something and then with the person that you're struggling with, they have no idea what it is that the problem is. So that's what I was running into, along with literacy gaps. So I felt that.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump in again here, just real quick, because what you're highlighting here is such a wonderful example. The key point here is, what did you search for before you even thought of the business? Is that you identified the pain points. You identify, when you identify pain points and you use your skills and talents to solve that, then that's the business that blossoms. So yeah, carry on.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Listen, I'm just enjoying talking. This is so great. This is a lot of fun about how it developed. I needed folks to know that I was working around that. They don't need to behave that way. And it's important to address, what are your challenges? What are you needing in order to do well with your position? So what they needed to know, just like with homeschooling. So with homeschooling, we're going to tell our children, this is what we're doing. So in my workplace, I told them, this is what we do. Are you familiar with what your job is? Are you familiar with how you're relating to students? What does your job have to do with getting students to maneuver through the system? So I used all of the practices for homeschooling in that world of higher education, and it worked. And one of the last institutions that I worked at, I was hired to help them to become number one in the state in terms of credentials, improvements, satisfaction with course. And we became number one in 18 months from being the worst. And that's from using homeschooling practices on adult learners that don't know what they're missing, what the gaps were that they were missing. So we just decided to use them, tried them at scale. It worked. Alinea Home came out of that. However, here's that caveat place. And I was just going to leave to go back to helping homeschoolers get started, and so that they would know how to fill those gaps. As that was building, I realized that the parents that I was talking to that were homeschooling, you have to identify what your gaps are. And adults struggle with that. So they don't want people to know what their gaps are, but they will do whatever it takes for their children to make sure that they have better experiences than they did as a parent, and then what they did throughout their life. And so I started to look at, how can I then turn this into a curriculum in order to meet the parents' needs while they're helping their children grow and learn. So I didn't want to dismiss the adult. I didn't really want to work with the children. I really wanted to stay with the adult. But in order for it to really work well, we have to work with both of them.
Yeah, I love that. You keep pushing on what are the pain points, and now you got this, double, triple pronged effect that's moving forward. I'd really be curious now, because I know the people listening here, they do have these ideas, they have these things they want to do, or they feel like yourself being pushed along on this journey. But how do you deal with this? You didn't know the outcome of this business that was going to be created. You just continued to step forward. How do you do that when it seems really foggy as you're looking forward? Yeah.
And the other part of it, Lorraine, is we have to go back further than yesterday, right? We have to go back to, there are some patterns that we have in life that have directed us to make the same decisions over and over and over again. And then when we make those decisions, we're wondering, well, why in the world is this happening to me again? So we want to find, where did the pattern begin? Where did it start? And sometimes, I know we don't want to look at this, but looking at what happened when we were younger and just talking to that little girl. It's kind of, that little girl had dreams because she didn't know about all the challenges that were happening in the world. I'm going to be a doctor one day, some people.
But I would love to, I would love to hear, what is your vision now? Like, if you could say what a legacy you would like to leave, or what would you like to see come about by you participating and adding value to the area of our world that you're adding value to? What is that vision that you have?
Thank you for that. We are at the cutting edge of having home education be another school idea, a choice, homeschooling of choice. However, there needs to be some standards in place. Otherwise, the children will suffer, not the parent. Right. The children will, and then the nation as a whole will suffer. So we need to prepare the parents to prepare the children for their season of change. And when they enter whatever world they're going to enter into beyond home education, we need to make sure that they're ready. So whatever method you're choosing with home education, it is not about the parent. It is about your children.
And just to be in the cutting edge of what's happening is absolutely amazing. I do want to say, in the show notes, for those of you listening, I've got Denise's link to her website. She's on LinkedIn. There's a link for her newsletter. And she's also got a micro learning course about ditch the homeschool doubt. If I know people listening might know people that are looking into homeschooling, so that might be a great thing to share with them. Well, Denise, thank you so much. This conversation, as always, our conversations here on Do Brand You are amazing. Thank you so much for adding value. Look forward to having you back on the channel. We've got so much to chat with, but thank you again. And for those of you listening, links are below, and share a comment if you like. Get in touch with Denise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great. Okay.